Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Steampunk Jones here, and welcome to part 0 of What If Naruto Was a Saiyan. Just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat, and so we begin. A sphere of massive energy could be seen in the distance, growing ever larger until it was as large as a small planet. Its appearance, that of the sun. Swirling, destructive energy was balanced on the tip of the finger of a horned being that cackled maniacally from his floating chair. Die, monkeys, die! With a flick of the wrist, the force of the death ball fell onto a now doomed planet down below. Many armored warriors fought back, humanoid in form, but with strange tails either flailing behind or wrapped around their waists. Their rebellious cries of the tailed warriors were silenced as they were engulfed in the massive death ball that now plunged through the atmosphere and crashing into the planet. As the sphere had been forming, two spheres like pods shot in opposite directions, one to a far-off world to begin a path of legend, the other to the gaping infinite void of the universe. Once the planet was destroyed, the deviated pod was rocketed by a massive wave of energy that sent it careening onto a swirling vortex that consumed all light, bending space-time around it. The shockwave corrupted the twisting tunnel in space that, instead of destroying the pod, sent it blasting through the stars into a different realm altogether. Zooming through a tunnel that provided a show of lights unknown to man, violently the pod shook as reality began to alter, as if the very building blocks of creation had been jumbled and reassembled. Suddenly, the pod exited the rip in space and was cast off on a collision course for a blue marble that closely resembled Earth. Breaking through the atmospheric barrier of the planet, clouds parted, causing a loud sonic boom to echo throughout the ninja world. The pod's speed continued to increase due to the pull of gravity, but it was at this time that the pod's system kicked in, forcing the pod to slow, but not enough to stop a crash to a small land by the sea. The space pod sped through a mysterious village, breaking through buildings until it finally stopped at the foot of a small mountain, creating a blast crater 10 times larger than the pod itself. The sphere was charred. Black from its distant travel, its integrity had been maintained, but the ship had reached its end, just barely arriving with its payload intact. Many red-haired ninjas then appeared around the crater, all ready for combat. The now panicked villagers stayed back, hiding in the remains of buildings and finding safety back in their homes. Soon, the village elder arrived and led the investigation of this alien craft, slowly getting closer before the pod began to release a pressurized stream of air before opening. Its only hatch to reveal a child, a small baby not even a year old, was inside, still sleeping even after the traumatic ordeal. Those observing marveled at the sight, wondering how a child ended up there. The elder picked up the child, still keeping his guard. He noticed something odd. The baby had a tail. Slowly opening its eyes, the baby stretched slightly, and then noticed that it was in a new, strange land. With a loud shriek, the baby began to cry, its black hair standing on end, ever slightly, and attempted to leave the arms of the elder. After a few minutes, the child had calmed and began to look at the nearly pink-haired old man that led the small army of shinobi that had come to meet the child. They soon came to take the child in, and had been adopted into the home of the red-haired ninja. Her name bestowed to her by the clan's people, her name was Kushina Uzumaki. At the age of 2, the young girl was already playing outside with the other children that were up to 4 years her senior. She was growing quickly, and she seemed so strong, lacking the frailty of a toddler, but had the toughness of stone. It had been a cloudy night. The light of the stars was missing from the sky, the moon's light only seeping through the crevices to illuminate the small village. Being called by her adopted family, Kushina smiled and turned to return to her loved ones until she noticed a bright light appear on the horizon. The moon had its apex. A giant white sphere was present and appeared to cast a spotlight on the black-haired Uzumaki. The girl froze in place, beginning to shake uncontrollably, dropping the ball that had been playing with her friends the moment prior. Pupils turned to white before the toddler hunched over in pain. Her body beginning to mutate, mass increasing, her bones growing, a sight so frightening that the children ran and screamed to their waiting parents' arms. The girl screamed in pain until suddenly The screams were replaced by wild roars, and her body grew to massive sights above the tallest buildings in the vicinity, alerting the village to great danger. Alarms sounded everywhere. Non-combatants ran to protect themselves, as now in the village, where once was nothing but an innocent child, now stood a giant ape with eyes red as the hair of the Uzumaki lineage. Many ninja fought and perished on this day, until a great deal of shinobi joined together and cast their sealing chains on the beast. Using one of their legendary clan's sealing jutsus, the village elder marked the beast on its chest before the beast seared in agony. Then, as soon as it began, the beast began to shrink instead of being sent away. The colossal beast form then crumpled into that of a little girl, now unconscious, on the ground in a fetal position, her long black hair covering her body, while small tears trickled down her cheek. She was in pain, and the seal reeled back the beast from within. One of the ninjas rushed to the end until they were stopped by the elder, who had now grown fond of the toddler. Great power laid within this young girl, and even though lives were lost, they knew that it wasn't her intention, but the nature of her being. The seal from the Uzumaki clan had been reinforced later on, and after some research, they deduced that the full moon was the catalyst to Kushina's transformation. From then on, even with the seal, the residents of the village were informed to avoid leaving their homes at times when the moon was full. Many years passed, and the young girl had been ostracized from society, as many feared her as the dealer of death, a blood moon ape. Children her age that were too young to remember the attack teased her for her tale and called her a monkey, causing her to get into many fights growing up. One day, an emissary from the sister village of Uzushihogaku, Konoha, had arrived as a Jinchuriki, the widow of the first Hokage, was approaching and required a successor. The Uzumaki clan had taken this honor due to their incredible chakra reserves and powerful sealing jutsu, and to strengthen that bond, they would provide a suitable host for the nine-tailed fox Kurama. Due to pressure from the elders of the village and clan leaders, the village chief decided to offer Kushina to the Leaf. She had shown great potential, even in her young age. Her chakra reserves were immense, rivaling those of full-blooded Uzumaki shinobi. Her seal had remained strong, but to avoid the massive risk of releasing both the Nine Tails and the Great Ape within, they developed a new seal to avoid a terrible result. The young girl bid farewell to the only home she ever knew, knowing full well that what she did was for the good of the villages. Once arriving in Konoha, she was quickly enrolled into the Ninja Academy, where she was brutally teased by her classmates due to the discovery of her tail. Others would call her names and call her Monkey, a chimp, and many others, getting to the point that she would have to settle things with her fist. She was unusually strong for a girl of her build, and could take on most challengers. Even those that defeated her would regret the decision to fight her, as she would come back stronger and tougher each and every time. In spite of the constant abuse and fights, one boy in her class would catch her eye. A blonde boy with a warm smile. At times the boy would defend her and even join in on the fighting if it was needed, though Kushina kept her distance, worrying that this was all a trick that would send her reeling. The time came for the Uzumaki elder of the village, the current Jinchuriki, to pass on the Biju to the ebony-haired female. Upon meeting the elder Uzumaki, whose hair, which was once as red as crimson, now dulled to a muted brown that draped past her shoulders and down her back, Kushina was nervous, finally meeting another of her clan after so much time. In reality, she was terrified, leaving the only home she had ever known to become the vessel of a horrific creature capable of so much destruction. "It shall be all right," said the gentle old woman, while outstretching her arms for an embrace. And with tears in her eyes, Kushina leaned into the extended arms of the Jinchuriki, and finally, tears began falling from her face. "It is out of love of the village, of peace, that we do this." Her wrinkled mouth curled into a gentle smile, her voice worse for fear. She was on her final days. The tailed girl looked up, and after their eyes met, she knew that this was her mission now, and that she would inherit the will passed on by the elder. Time passed, and the pre-adolescent Kunoichi had been assaulted midday. Rival shinobi had snuck into the village in hopes of kidnapping the Jinchuriki of the Leaf. Originally, a team of 6 ninja had gone to take the girl, but after much struggle, only 2 were left standing and had been able to take her away. The Cloud Shinobi carried the black-haired ninja between the 2 chains, wrapped around her legs and arms, seeing as she, if allowed, would overpower them. As they were reaching the outskirts of Konoha, the 2 ninjas stopped, hearing rustling among the trees. A kunai zipped through the air, slicing the throat of one of the shinobi, causing him to drop the girl and grip his now blood-coated neck. "Damn it!" shouted the surviving shinobi as he dropped the girl, who took the opportunity and angrily broke her bonds. Turning around, the Cloud Ninja didn't have time to react as he was hit by a 2-pronged attack. 12-year-old girl's fist had sent the man upwards with a massive uppercut, and midair was struck by a roundhouse courtesy of Minato Namikaze. How did you find me?" asked the girl, dropping to the ground on her backside to take a breath, her cheeks red from embarrassment. "Well, let's just say I was in the neighborhood." The 2 began to laugh, and the girl's heart warmed from the situation. Maybe there was hope for her yet. Many years later, the alien girl and the blonde ninja had married and had a child. Things had uttered when it came to the tailed girl's life in the village. After many years, she proved herself to be a reliable and powerful asset to the Konoha. She had become an elite ninja and had been able to master her adopted family's sealing jutsus, which she had passed on to her husband. As her pregnancy had been reaching its climax, nights were becoming a war zone in the mind of the black-haired shinobi. As she slept, she rustled between the sheets, sweat dripping from the side of her head. No, stop!" She spoke in her sleep, barely audible. Within her mind, massive apes fought against a giant orange-furred fox. Spheres of chakra blasted, trying to stop the ape, while a mouth blast countered, creating explosions. "No!" she screamed as she sat up, having her right hand on her stomach, her breathing heavy, chest heaving. "Another nightmare?" asked Minato, gently holding Kushina, his arms wrapped around her shoulders. She nodded as she leaned on her husband's chest. "You'll be all right. Won't let anything happen to you." She smiled lightly, but did not say a word. It had been months since she began having these nightmares. Familiar ape fighting the 9-tailed fox. What could it mean? As the time of her birth of her child approached, the 4th Hokage began to make preparations. He had studied the power of the seal within Kushina, both the one sealing her hidden power and the other one that sealed Kurama. The one time the seal would weaken was during childbirth. This had happened to Mito Uzumaki, and it was to be expected with this event. More so with the power that could be released through the power of the black-haired Kunoichi was unlike that of others in the Land of Fire. Her body was tougher, and even her chakra reserves rivaled that of the most prodigious Uzumakis, and this affirmed the decision the Uzumaki elders made long ago. Loud, painful screams could be heard from a hidden shrine where a seal surrounded Kushina as she gave birth. Preparations had been made to protect the seal from unleashing the 9-tailed fox. After many hours of labor, she gave birth to a blonde-haired boy that resembled her spouse. Though as she held the boy, she felt something break. Her heartbeat was loud. Her eyes widened as the seal within her hand weakened to the point of no return. In the background, a masked man stood, smiling beneath, while a Sharingan eye poked through a small hole on the right side.
"Time for the fun to begin."
A beastly roar echoed throughout the forest as massive red chakra tendrils sprouted from the greenery, being lit up by a massive full moon in the sky that cast a spotlight in on ensuring the chaos. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we have a primary channel called We the Celestials. Now, We the Celestials is what we do here already. Their content is centered around the crazy world and lore of My Hero Academia. So please, check us out over there, and if you're feeling in the mood for a roller coaster of quirky content. We also have another relative to our channel, Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series, guaranteed. I'd like to let you all know, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. If you're perhaps interested in what we do here at WTC, then I would like to extend an invitation to join our team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 and older to join our crew. You can find us on our Discord, which you can locate in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be. Whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits, all you gotta do is hit up the recruitment server and sign up for whichever category of work that fulfills your interests. Always looking for new members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching and have a great day.